asked about certification and what's happening on a local level, at local market level. And also on national market level and the prices for such product. So maybe if you'd like to come back on some of these points. Right, so if we look at the question of Caroline, it is true that it is easier for when it comes to exporting of products. For example, when it comes to wood, it's the main objective is to have kind of a part of the market, for example, the European Union market, where there might not be a premium, but it is interesting because you already have an important part of the market. Now, there are some demand for bio products, organic products, which inspire trust in the consumer. So it doesn't mean that we are going to have a limited impact of certification. The increased price, which is linked to these practices, does not mean it's going to have an effect on the final price on the market. But I think there's an urban demand, which for now is limited but can increase. We would need to look at certifications which are affordable for small producers, small holders, for example, group certification or territorial certification, depending on the need. But you're right. Within all these instruments, certification is more on exporting rather than local markets. So for local markets, maybe we need to have incentives, maybe on linked to the environment, and also taxation incentive. For example, cocoa in Côte d'Ivoire, there are taxes, and there's an important issue on this, but this will be more difficult on local markets. Not all productions are taxed. So all the issue, I think, is that, well, I presented these instruments, but we need to understand the context first. The context determines which instruments can be used or should be used and those which should not be used. We need to look at the context and see what instrument is best to use.
In Africa about the to experience about PES. You have PES, for instance, in country like Kenya, like South Africa, etc. Also in Uganda. Quite few in Francophone area, even if in Gabon you have some things that may looks at PES. The fact is that I did several feasibility study for governments, for instance, in Côte d'Ivoire and also in Burkina Faso about PES, etc. The issue is to find some way to fund PES on a sustainable and long-term basis. And for instance, in Côte d'Ivoire, they have created after my study a fund to finance PES and to develop PES, but they have not taken the part I suggested about implementing some fees, some levies on, for instance, on beer or some of phone unit, because about the sensitivity of the government about to increase the prices for consumers. So now they have a fund, but they don't have any. They don't have a think about what kind of financial mechanism can be mobilized for funding that. So they are just looking for ODA, for financial aid from abroad. But I think this is an issue because in reality, even in Costa Rica, only it was some years ago. I don't have any recent data, but some years ago, 60% of the FONAFIFO fund was funded by the fees taken on fuel and water distribution, but 40% came from ODA from Germany was the main I think was the main donor for this. So in reality, it will be a good opportunity for countries just to decide, even if they put only 10-20% of the fund on their own, that is using some kind of this kind of financial mechanism like fees, etc. I'm sure that in a poor countries, I don't know, let's say Burkina Faso, Madagascar, or whatever, even if the government just decide to say, okay, we are going to make the effort on our own to tax urban people to have this kind of fees to put into a fund for the benefit of the farmers. I'm sure that the donors will be there to say, okay, we are going to put the complement. And I think this kind of thing is certainly something that is expected from the donors to see what is the political will to really to make the first step toward this kind of sustainable financing of agroecology.
Merci, Monsieur Karsenty. On va devoir s'arrêter là.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we have to stop here.
Voilà. Il y a encore d'autres questions.
There are other questions, but
Peut-être on vous relaiera ces questions. Si
maybe we will read the questions.
C'est clair que la discussion que vous
And of course, the discussion which we started this morning is something which we certainly need to continue discussing. Public governance and private certification. This is something of interest. This issue of bonus malus. So it's very interesting. Fiscal policy, responsibility, and responsibility of the consumer, European consumer, but also other consumers from other countries. So all this is very important in facilitating maybe this transition. Final issue, a colleague asking about indicators. The budgetary support in our countries created at the end of the results. So the question is, what are the most important indicators to avoid some of the issues you mentioned when it comes to certification? Yes. So there's different certification which are sold at different markets. So I think that it all depends on the public authorities who are going to decide on the certification they're going to use, maybe one or several. And up to them to decide to ask the certification to evolve in one direction or in another. Geographic indications, for example, are included, but the certifications, if there is an evolution of these geographical indications to include agroecology, this also already exists for deforestation. So in saying that these products, for example, have not contributed to deforestation. So a guarantee of this issue and also to increase traceability. I think that the advantage of having these private certification have there's particularities, so on zero deforestation, etc. But we can also evolve these certifications. So the possibility of requesting a change. So if this certificate has these advantages, we also require this certificate to ensure or guarantee XYZ. We have had, for example, a decrease of up to 40% of customs rates and taxes on palm oil, which does not contribute to deforestation. So we can modify this certification to respond to the criteria we would like to set up. I think this is interesting. Thank you very much.